This knowledge is so powerful that it is even holier than our knowledge of God. It is such because this knowledge doesn't tell you to believe in God. And instead, this knowledge allows you to meet Him. Look closer. The halo is bright, and it also has the sign of the cross within it. And although we believe this to mean Christianity, we are all completely wrong. This cross does not mean crucifixion, and it is also not a halo. This ancient symbol is not uniquely Christian, and it is instead found in every religion around the world. It literally means what makes this ancient crossed circle so holy is the fact that this ancient cross came down to our earth from heavenly angels. Angels whom we now call the reason the symbol of the cross was so holy is because when these beings came to us, they each had a cross hanging around their necks. These crosses were not worn for fashion as they are today. And to the contrary, these crosses were worn by these gods because the crosses were actually tools. Everything that is worn by these beings is a clue left to us for our edification and our understanding. Everything about them is for learning. A star on the clothing, wings on the back. Everything they wore was to perform a function, and each accoutrement was a form of technology. And sadly, the cross was one of them. The cross that is hanging from their necks has rounded edges. Rounded edges that indicate that this object is to be attached to something that is circular. And that something circular is here.
Crows are found on every continent except Antarctica. Wherever humans live, they're there. Their world intimately intertwines with ours, yet we know so little about them. They, on the other hand, seem fascinated with us.
The most surprising thing about crows has been their ability to recognize and remember particular people, and even just particular faces. They look, they think, they eyeball you. They really seem to be sizing up the situation. You walk outside now with a whole nother perspective. Not just that you're moving through an animal's environment, but that they're watching you and learning from you every step of the way.
Crows have an exceptional ability to pick a single face out of a crowd. But what's truly extraordinary is what the crows do with that knowledge. At the University of Washington in Seattle, a team of masked researchers fans out to conduct an ongoing experiment with an animal that many people view as a schemer, a scavenger, and a dreaded omen of death: the crow. This is a facial recognition test.
The way we go about studying facial recognition is to change our face. The caveman mask was our initial trial. We caught 7 birds wearing the caveman mask and watched their response to that mask as we would just walk casually through a route that included where we had caught them. Initially, about 30% of the birds we encountered would scold us. As we've done this through time, now virtually every bird you see on campus will swoop down when you're wearing the caveman mask and give an alarm call. It was shocking that these birds had an incredible ability to focus on an individual person. So really to pick us out of a crowd, it's a difficult task even for people to do.
Scientists are just beginning to understand how crows recognize a single human face and how they use that information.
The adult birds are showing us that they're very intelligent. In essence, they've learned a harmful face with one trial exposure. One catch, and they remember that face on campus for over 2 years.
What was shocking wasn't just that the crows could pick the scientists out of a crowd, but that they told each other about them. Soon, everyone in the group, known as a murder of crows, knows who their friends and their enemies are. The crows who gather near the small farming community of Chatham, Canada, know that there are far more enemies here than friends. Each fall, hundreds of thousands of migrating crows join local flocks to create one of the biggest roost sites in the world.
Crows liked what humans did to North America. They liked it a lot. They like what we like. We like open spaces with trees, and that's what they like. So we cut down all the forests in the east, made them opened up, still a few trees for nesting and all that. They like that. And now they're everywhere.
Crows are always watching, learning, and remembering. They're especially attentive on garbage day. Crows memorize the garbage truck routes, learning when the best time is to scavenge some succulent treats.
So we're omnivores and we're social. And crows are omnivores. And sometimes we don't like the animals that have the same qualities as us. We don't like crows because crows are opportunistic. And so are humans, though. Crows are invasive. Crows will do all sorts of things that humans do that we are not particularly proud of doing, like feeding on garbage.
That long cultural interaction we've had with crows in a negative way has seeped into our modern culture. Whenever something bad is going to happen on a movie, you hear a crow call in the distance.
The mayor of Chatham tried to rid the city of their crow infestation by introducing a shooting competition. But as soon as one crow was shot, the word went out, and they all learned just how high to fly to stay out of the range of the pellets. That's when the city turned to Ulrich Waterman and his hawk Harriet to try to drive the crows out of town.
The crows, being highly intelligent, they can figure out a human being. They can figure out a raptor. But that the two work together, that's too much for them. They cannot comprehend that their two worst enemies are working together. That freaks them out. Oh yeah, she wants to go. Let another one go. The reason that I let that crow go is she was not much harmed and is in good shape to join her friends there, and she will tell the story of what just happened to her. See them all, they all coming up now, and she is joining them now and telling them the horrible story.
Crows learn from each other's misfortunes. When one is killed in a farmer's field, it's not uncommon for them to change entire migratory patterns so that no crows fly over that field for as long as 2 years. There's no doubt about it. Crows talk.
So I think we should do one more song from the last time. Yes? Let's do one about the siege of Vienna in 1683. The Winged Hussars! The Winged Hussars arrive!
soldiers left to die? Will they hold the wall, or will the city fall? Dedication, dedication, they're outnumbered 15 to 1. And the battle's begun, and the winged hussars arrive. Coming down the mountainside. And the winged hussars arrive. Coming down, they turn the tide. As the days are passing by, and as the dead are piling high, no escape and no salvation. Trenches to explosive halls are buried deep beneath the walls. Plant the charges there and watch the city fair. Desperation, desperation, it's a desperate race against the mind, and a race against time, and the winged hussars arrive. Coming down the mountainside. And the winged hussars arrive. Coming down, they turn the tide. Cannonballs are coming down from the sky. Janissaries, are you ready to die? We will see their vengeance eye for an eye. You'll be stopped upon the steps of our gate. On this field you're only facing your hate. That will come the Sultan sealing your fate. We remember in September, there's a night the end now was green. We made the enemy bleed, and the winged hussars arrive. Coming down the mountainside. And the winged hussars arrive. Coming down, they turn the tide. And the winged hussars arrive. Coming down the mountainside. And the winged hussars arrive. Coming down, they turn the tide. We remember in September when the winged hussars arrive. I got the king of crows. I got the king of crows.
What a coincidence!
What makes this ancient crossed circle so holy is the fact that this ancient cross came down to our earth from heavenly angels. Angels whom we now call
Mamo Anioły.
I got the king of crows.
miracle so holy is the fact that this ancient cross came down to our earth from heavenly angels. Angels whom we now call
You'll be dealing with hybrid armies. You'll be dealing with little green men.
Square to acclaim Nicolae Ceausescu. The genius of the Carpathians is to hold his first public speech since the bloody events of Timisoara. And when he mentions the riots of the previous weekend, the crowd explodes. He is booed. The first time in 25 years of power that this has happened. For a quarter of a century, Ceausescu ruled Romania with an iron hand. But today, December 21st, the people are not afraid to show their despair and their hatred. The crowd swarms through the streets. Everything begins to spiral, and the Ceausescu empire quickly collapses. At 11:30 a.m., Vasily Maluchan receives the order to take off from his airbase located in a suburb of the capital. We flew to the center of Bucharest from the north, to what is now Revolution Square, previously Palace Square. There was a huge crowd that seemed very agitated. We landed on the terrace of the old headquarters of the Central Committee. We stayed sitting there approximately half an hour with the engine running, waiting for orders. Nicolae and Elena Ceausescu were terrified. They could barely walk and were practically carried by the members of their personal guard. Also with them was former Prime Minister Mana Manescu and their advisor, Emil Bobu. Then I asked Ceausescu where we were going, and after a brief consultation, he and Elena told me to head toward Snagov. In the meantime, Nicolae Ceausescu learned that the state television network had fallen into the rebels' hands. He decided to head toward Pitești. There, he hoped to be able to get things back under control. Then I had the idea that saved the lives of my crew and myself when I told them that we had been spotted by radar and that we risked being blown out of the sky by the artillery at any minute. So Ceausescu told me to land right away. Where, I said, on the military airbase nearby? No, he told me, near the road. Then he looked at me and he asked me for the third time, "Are you serving the cause?" So I answered, "What cause? Whose cause?" Then he looked at me and he asked me for the third time, "Are you serving the cause?" So I answered, "What cause? Whose cause?"
Nu mai trage nimeni.
Dă-i baticul la o parte. Dă-i baticul la o parte. Ridică-l, mai sus capul.
Doamne, dacă e născut cu căită în cap, se devine strigoi.
Și la picioarele. Da, să rezolvă și atunci.
Așa, și băgăți asta.
Pari?
Dar și eu, fiți atenți.
Mâna, mâna.
Aici, gata, bun, bun. Vino imediat cu oamenii cu plăcere. Treceți dincolo rapid.
Then he looked at me and he asked me for the third time, "Are you serving the cause?" So I answered, "What cause? Whose cause?"
should do one more song.
I got the king of crows.
Yes. Let's do one about the siege of Vienna in 1683. The winged hussars. Let the winged hussars arrive.
Look into my eyes, you will see what you mean to me. Such a heart, such a soul. And when you find me there, you'll search no more. Don't tell me it's not worth trying for. You can't tell me it's not worth dying for. You know it's true. Everything I do it for you. Look into your heart, you will find there's nothing there to hide. Take me as I am, take my life. I would give it all, I would sacrifice. Don't tell me it's not worth fighting for. I can't help it, there's nothing I want more. You know it's true. Everything I do it for you. There's no love like your love, and no other could give more love. There's nowhere unless you're there all the time, all the way. To your heart, baby. Oh, you can't tell me it's not worth trying for. I can't help it, there's nothing I want more. Yeah, I would fight for you, I'd lie for you, walk the wire for you. Yeah, I'd die for you. You know it's true. Everything I do, I do